future is now, although the means are still the same. This time on Baron's New Vegas Weapon Guides, we're exploring the next generation in explosives. Not only are they strange looking, but they are also green. That's right, this time we are reviewing the Plasma line of explosives, a blast into the future, and something that has quite been developed. The Plasma group of explosives promise high temperature and high carnage. The grenades themselves have appeared in every game in the Fallout series to date, and coast to coast they are a powerful option to get rid of groups of well-armored enemies. As many well know, the plasma state is a semi-state of matter that is created through the application of high energy. Fire, welding, and electricity all create plasma. The most likely source of plasma in the plasma explosive is from a small nuclear-powered battery that excites a liquid gas inside the containment chamber, converting it into plasma. A small explosion then damages the containment chamber and causes a violent rupture on the inside. The escaped plasma expands and causes extensive burns and concussive damage as the superheated ball of gas causes rapid expansion of the air. Now, this is all a rough application of theory, but the grenade and mine both have electrical vacuum tube style conduits which would form some measure of breakout points inside the weapon for the electricity to arc and generate the plasma. In theory, there would be a shelf life on plasma grenades and mines unless they could be kept in a low energy or no energy state. If they couldn't, then the fuel for the explosive would only last a few years, but the same could be said of the fragmentation weapons since the primers would start to chemically fail eventually. Now, as long as we are talking theory, the discussion should be had about how lasers damage things versus plasma. Almost all weaponized lasers feature a pulse of energy fired in a very short time frame. This results in a modest amount of force delivered in a short period of time. This causes a lot of power to be felt on the target material, which causes it to vaporize and turn into its own plasma as long as it absorbs the energy, of course. This plasma tends to actually block the rest of the incoming laser energy, resulting in craters being the hallmark of pulse laser weaponry. As discussed before, plasma weapons generate balls of superheated gas that fly and generally stick to the target. In this way, they burn a hole into the target. The plasma explosives could work similar, but admittedly faster method. They generate a sphere of plasma that inflicts burns able to melt steel and bones, and hot enough to evaporate any water or other protective ablative on the surface. Otherwise, the moist nature of creatures like mirelurks and centaurs would have some defense against the heat of plasma. There is slight potential that the case of the mine or grenade have some tungsten in them to form dangerous molten metal lances that cut into whatever is caught in the blast. But enough about theory. Let's get to the practical. The version in Fallout New Vegas is the second most powerful grenade to date in numbers alone. Trailing behind the Brotherhood of Steel plasma grenade, it still deals a huge 225 explosive damage plus 1 damage for an impact per grenade, in a safe and still usable 450 units. That is half of the frag grenade and a little less than 66% of the dynamite. It can be thrown at a steady 0.65 grenades per second, resulting in a DPS of 147.4 multiplied by however many enemies were hit in that time. It only costs 24 AP in VATS like other grenades, which should make for easy guided shots, with which the reduced range it is certainly a way to use it. The efficiency on this tactic is a massive 9.4 damage per AP. Sitting in a good middle ground with blast radius, it benefits greatly from splash damage and extra explosive damage perks, and it will make it quite powerful. The mine, on the other hand, is a harder sell. At only 150 explosive damage in the standard 192 units for military manufactured mines, it is outshined in so many ways by the bottle cap mine. The only benefit is the slightly faster throwing speed at 1 mine every 2 seconds. Now, like most explosives, the mine and grenade both weigh 0.5 units, but despite this, they have a strength requirement of 2. And despite the disposable nature of the devices, they have the highest requirement of any explosive in the base game, at a whopping 75 explosive skill. Luckily, they don't have that requirement to disarm the mine version, although that isn't a great concern, as you will soon discover. Now, as expected of high-tech weaponry, these weapons are not craftable, and are expensive to buy. At 300 caps apiece, this is double the price of frag grenades, but about double the damage in a smaller radius for the plasma grenade. It is easy to save them for a more difficult fight, as they are special in their own way. However, this perceived rarity can also work against a Mad Bomber, being a fairly difficult thing to use on enemies that aren't worthy. The plasma mine, on the other hand, has very stiff competition. Again, it costs the same 300 caps as the grenade, so it is 4 times more expensive than the frag mine, and only does 50% more damage. It is also twice as expensive as the bottle cap mine, just in vendor price alone, not to be mentioned that the bottle cap mine can be made for cheaper. Additionally, there are more places that sell the junk that goes into the bottle cap mine than buying an actual plasma mine. And speaking of which, the plasma mine is only reliably sold by Knight Torres and Gloria Van Graff, although Gloria Van Graff will sometimes never stock them. She does, however, have several of them on her counter, which most players will know. In the base game, there are no naturally occurring armed plasma mines, and that's right, none. It makes them even less likely to be used, and most players will only find them in mine boxes. The plasma grenades, on the other hand, have more sellers, including Cliff Briscoe, and Gloria herself will almost always carry them. Grenade boxes can also carry them, making them significantly more likely to be used in their mine variant. Potentially, the boomers will stock some, but they are a fan of the more traditional explosives. Now sadly, while I can sing the praises of the bottle cap mine and a plasma grenade every day, the same cannot be said of the plasma mine. It is overpriced and underpowered. The lack of a big boom is not overcome with the fun visual effect and potential gooing of the enemy. Unlike most mines, the bottle cap mine is just too good even in the entire balance of the game. The plasma grenade, on the other hand, can be a wonderful investment. The high damage can leave a group of assassins dead in an instant, with a well-placed shot from a gun causing Legion assassins, who might be using these grenades, to suffer an existence failure. Having a few of these grenades can come in handy if you're dealing with the Deadwind Cavern or with the Brotherhood. But with the high damage but high cost, it might be good to carry around a spare gun to finish whoever is left over from the initial explosion.